Welcome to today's program on the CFAMC Listening Room. And our guest today is a wonderful composer whose name is David DeVasto. And we're going to hear 5 pieces of his, and he's going to share with us some of his background and experiences and opinions. And of course, we encourage you all that are listening to do the same. If you're listening to this on a video recording later, feel free to send me an email or one to David and tell you if you like what he did, or if you want to be critical. Be careful. Okay. Okay, David, tell us about your growing up background, music and non-music, when they converged. When was the first time you picked up a viola?
Well, hello everybody. It's good to see some familiar faces and some new ones. My name's David DeVasto. For those of you that don't know me, thank you, Bill, for the invitation to join you. I had the pleasure of meeting several of you several years ago at Mississippi College, and then I saw some of you again last year in Houghton, New York. And But I thought I'd share some things that I haven't had presented at one of the CFAMC conferences I've participated in. Um, so just a little bit of background. Um, you just want musical background? That's what you're asking about?
Say whatever you'd like to begin.
Okay. Well, I was not really I didn't take the traditional path, musically speaking. I was raised in a Catholic school, sang in choir, um, and I did. My parents knew that I had an interest in music. I collected all my sister's hand-me-down records, so I had a bunch of her records growing up, and so I was always listening to music. Um, my parents, so my they gave me a synthesizer, when I was very young,
Hmm.
and that just kind of blew my mind and kind of opened up some doors for me. Formal training really didn't start till high school though, and that was started with guitar lessons. And then from there, it's funny, I don't really play guitar anymore, although I still have a guitar. But I when I got into college, I focused on the piano. And then within the past 7 years, I have been playing the violin. So that's my musical training. In terms of composition, um, I thought I was going to study guitar in college, but I just love the piano so much. And if you're studying classical guitar, you have to grow out your fingernails and file them and shape them in a specific way. And boy, it's really is you can't really play piano effectively with proper technique if you do that. So I had to make the choice, and the choice was, well, I'm just going to stop playing guitar, at least classical, that technique. Because I wanted to, and then that's when I switched to piano. So that's kind of when I made that switch. But then I was like, okay, I don't think I'm prepared to do a piano performance major. And I loved writing music. I kind of always wanted to write music, and I guess I was double majoring in composition and guitar. So I just decided to forget about the guitar, focus on composition. That's my musical background in a nutshell.
Well, you're not nuts, so that's sounds like a interesting. But you were majoring in guitar,
Yes, classical guitar.
so you must therefore have some ability at guitar. I can't believe you don't.
I only I understand the technicalities of it. I haven't picked up a guitar in years and years, and I'm not going to embarrass myself. So,
No, we're not going to
um,
force you to play guitar right now. That would
but
be
especially after playing the violin, trying to go back to guitar, it feels like an aircraft carrier. The thing's just huge. So I'm just like, what do I do with this thing? So I'm not yeah. My guitar picking days are over, unfortunately, but I admire the guitar. I love the guitar, and I still actually I've published more music for guitar than any other instrument, and I still actually that's kind of my niche in terms of my publications. Is I think I have 8 works I've published for guitar so far, um, in some combination of guitars, some solos, some duets, some quartets. Today I'm going to share actually a piece for guitar and banjo that I wrote.
which is coming up shortly.
Okay.
But you can keep talking.
No, I was just gonna say, but I mean, having the knowledge of the technical knowledge of an instrument is very important, I think, for a composer. So that's been helpful for my writing.
So you play a bunch of instruments.
No woodwinds, no brass. I'm really strings and piano. That's it. And I mean, I have played the. It's funny you mentioned the viola. I played the viola a little bit. It's not too different than violin, so but I don't advertise that either. It's just violin is and piano or what I am comfortable sharing and saying, yes, I play those instruments and I perform on those instruments regularly.
Well, tell us something about magnetic fields.
Magnetic fields. Okay. This was a piece that I was invited by a friend to write. His name is Wes Carr. He's the 2019 national mandolin champion. And so he's a very phenomenal mandolin player. He lives in Northern Illinois in the DeKalb area, went to the University of Northern Illinois at DeKalb, and then studied, I think, his master's degree down in Eastern Tennessee, I think, in Nashville. So anyway, I've gotten to know him through playing bluegrass music locally here. And he knew that I was a composer and he liked my what I was doing for guitar. And he said, he asked me to write a piece for banjo. So I wrote him a solo composition, which I actually kind of forgot about. And that's called Joy Comes in the Morning. Anyway, this is just a solo banjo piece. And then he asked me to write a duo for guitar and banjo. And I guess he received a grant to have it recorded and have some video done and everything. So that's what you'll see today is the video of that recording. But the guitar player is Fareed Haq. He is a very fine guitar player, classical, like in classical guitar circles, he's very well known. And so I was very honored when I found out that it was going to be him that Wes was playing with. I was like, absolutely. Be glad to write you guys a piece. And so the piece it's short. And I was just really interested just thematically about like the timbre of the strings, the difference between the guitar and the banjo being very metallic and more percussive versus the classical guitar with the nylon strings. Um, and one thing I like to do when I'm commissioned to write a piece, I always ask the people, like, what are their interests? What do they enjoy in terms of literature or pop culture? Or is there anything that they're just interested in that's non-musical? And what Wes told me is that he's interested in the writings of Dietrich Bonhoeffer. He mentioned some different things, but he also said X-Men, like the comic books for the X-Men. And so I was like, okay, that's interesting. And I was thinking, and actually, I think the first one I wrote, Joy Comes in the Morning, was actually, I think, based on the Bonhoeffer. Very tonal, pretty straightforward piece. It modulates a little. But this other one, I was like, okay, I'm going to stretch out a little bit, and I'll take his interest in X-Men for this one. And the idea of, I think, just one of the most interesting characters. There's many of them, but it's Magneto. And I like the idea of magnetism. So I was like, okay, magnetism, something about magnetism between the banjo and the guitar. So that's how the title came about. And I was like, okay, magnetic fields. So anyway, that's how it came about. So I wanted to kind of depict this idea of polarity between those two instruments.
So how did your attraction to magnetism come about?
My
Is that a,
attraction to
is that a
magnetism.
play on words? We'll have to edit it. Let's see how
You,
long
you
we've been on. I have to edit
you
that
went for
out.
a quarter of an hour without something from me in that regard. So how long do you think it could last?
We'll allow it.
It,
This piece
I
also.
have to say something about writing for guitar. That's one medium I briefly attempted to write for, but I decided that without learning to play the guitar myself, I would not be able to write for it. Do you think that's generally true of that instrument, that you really have to know something about playing it?
I think it's what's interesting is Bill said the same thing to me when we were meeting about this. Um, I used to say yes. And I mean, I do think it would help to have some idea of the idiomatic tendencies of the guitar more than simply the open strings and things like that. But that's being said, I wrote the banjo part without having, I mean, I picked up a banjo like once in my life. I don't, I, and all that Wes gave me, I mean, I had to ask him how many strings are on the banjo because I was seeing there's some have four and some have five, and there's a difference between a tenor banjo because that's tuned in fifths versus the 5-string banjo, which has this weird like drone high G string, but it's the lowest string. It's like below the lowest string. It's got some weird things, and the whole thing is tuned to like an open G major chord. So that's the one that it's probably the most prominent, and he asked me to write for the 5-string banjo. But like the guitar, it sounds an octave lower than written. So to get back to your point though, like all I had when I was writing this piece was I drew, and I had to like find this online. I couldn't even had a hard time finding the common tuning and all that. Anyway, so I drew the neck of the guitar, like the fretboard, excuse me, not of the guitar, of the banjo. And if I didn't already know the guitar, I probably would have done that as well. So I'm more familiar with the fretboard of the guitar, but I drew the fretboard. So I had that diagram in front of me, all like 12 frets or so of the banjo, and then the open strings. And then I think I put like every, whatever. I just wrote all the notes out. So I had like the grid was there for me. And so that was helpful for me to understand, Oh, also I asked about the finger picking style because for guitar, you pick with 3 fingers. You don't typically use your pinky, although it can be done rarely. But really, it's like 3 fingers and thumb. For banjo, it's only 2 fingers and thumb.
Hmm.
So some of the patterns that might be more idiomatic for guitar aren't as comfortable with banjo. And another thing is they're not using the flesh or fingernails. They have little metallic picks that they put on the ends of their fingers, like thimbles almost. Because if they use their fingers, they'd wear them down raw, on those metallic strings. So, um, but but with that in mind, understanding that they have the 2 and then the 1, the thumb and the 2 fingers, and I had the layout of the fretboard. That was helpful. Oh, one thing I screwed up though, that high drone G, open G, starts at the 5th fret. He forgot to mention that to me. So I was like thinking it was like open the whole way. It only starts like halfway up the neck. So it's really strange.
Wow.
Um, but once I got my head wrapped around it, I really enjoyed it, and I'm planning on writing more for the banjo. Actually, there's hardly any serious literature for banjo. So anyway,
Let's listen to it right now.
You better mute.
Powerball is trying to censor this video before more people discover the loophole that has
I'm
already
sorry,
helped my husband and me.
Getting commercials.
Bravo, David. I'm always fascinated when a composer opens up a new sonic universe to me, which you've done in this piece, because I've never heard that combination of instruments before, but it's a very effective one. And indeed, as James said in his chat, the tonalities that he used were very intriguing. The way sometimes the one instrument dominated the other one did, and they meshed together quite well. So congratulations. It's a very attractive piece.
And if I could share, since James has a case of electronic laryngitis, this is what James wrote, which is, wow, I like the tonality. I play both and I'm surprised by the chromaticism. Did you use the tablature for any of the instruments? I guess you'll have to type an answer.
Oh, thank you for your comments. I replied to James's comment already. Just thank you. I don't use tablature myself, but my publisher Bergman Edition will prepare tablature for the scores. Like for anybody that wants to purchase scores, he has tablature versions of those.
The thing that surprised me at the beginning, intrigued me, was how you wrote down the neck of the instrument with all the strings and all the frets. Did you do it at scale? I'm thinking that would be so useful for me when I'm writing an instrument. I don't know. I play guitar also, not my main instrument, and my husband plays banjo, so I know the sounds of those. But whenever I'm writing for violin or cello or any of the others, I'm taking the guitar to check spacing.
Yeah.
Doing the thing that you did there feels actually brilliant.
Well, I don't know if it was brilliant as much as just out of necessity. I needed to get my head wrapped around the banjo. It was just so foreign to me. So it wasn't exactly to scale, but it was big enough. Like I know that the frets are about the same width apart as the guitar. Like the guitar, the banjo sounds an octave lower than written. And so I knew the spacing was going to be, basically one finger per fret, roughly, with the ability to stretch a little bit from there. And that's just what I was going by. So in terms of the left hand, and then the right hand, I could show you the score if you'd like. I know we probably need to move on though, but I'll just say one other thing about the piece. So musically speaking, to tie it together, just to talk about some of the people with the tonality or whatever they're asking about. So I used the two all interval tetrachords. So these are boy, I forget it what it is. Is it 0147? 01, boy, oh boy. Okay, hold on. I have to find this real quick. Magnetic fields. On here. Maybe I didn't write them down. Darn it, I didn't write it down. Okay, let me just Google it. All interval tetrachords. So I used both of them. The all interval tetrachords are 0146 and 0137. That's right. Now what's cool about these, and this isn't the only time I've used these. I use these tetrachords in other music I've written. But what I wanted to do, since each of those two tetrachords, again, I was kind of using the duality aspect, polarity, the two all interval tetrachords, but yet what ties them together is magnetism. And what I made at any given point in the piece, there is a single interval that's tying together those two tetrachords. So since each of the tetrachords contains all of the intervals, when I have an interval that's being done, and usually it's repeated, you'll notice there's a lot of repetition. So that interval is being repeated. It's kind of then going between these two tetrachords. That makes sense.
Whatever you did, I liked it.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. Sometimes I guess the way that my composition teacher told me about it was like, before you cook, you got to set the table. You got to get your ingredients out. You have to kind of measure things in the measuring cup and mix things together and understand the temperatures and all the ingredients. So like what I just told you was like ingredients, right? And you can have all the right ingredients, but still, if you don't have the proportions right, you don't have, things measured, or you bake it too long, whatever, it's going to turn out to be inedible. So at the end of the day, we're talking about music, right?
And all the pieces you'll hear of David evoke the titles very well, including the da 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 thing, or da 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 da, whatever the intervals are. It creates. It sounds like a magnetic field. It has that effect. And in Like Water, Like a Dream, Like Water Through a Dream, which is a piece for string orchestra and percussion and harp, right? 3 percussionists. That title is very evocative of the way the music sounds. And the question comes up with all of your music, I think, that I've heard. All these pieces, or 4 of them, I don't know, or 5. Which came first, the music or the title?
Most of the time, the music comes first. The title is usually representative of, actually, not always. So like when I'm writing something liturgical, I already know the purpose and the function that it's for.
Not Magnificat, which we'll hear. That could not be.
Right.
You gave it that title later. No.
Right. So, I mean, that's self-explanatory. When you're deriving things from scripture or whatever, the title is what it is. And that's its function and everything. But a lot of times, so like when you're writing a piece, you're in the process. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that I've really ever. It's rare. I'm not saying I never, but it's rare that I'll have the exact title before I even start. With this one, though, it might have been because I started with what his interests were. I knew it was going to be something with magnetism, but I wasn't sure exactly the title. So I'll just leave it at that. But when you have a concept, you run with it, and then you have a chance to reflect on it, because in the creative process, things change, So sometimes things can change. For like Water Through a Dream, I thought that was a really hokey sounding title, to be honest with you. But it just kept coming back to me because it's more or less how I felt about the piece, not about what it was or was supposed to represent. It's just like it's very watery and flowy and dreamy, I guess, in my and I have a program note that I could share with you if you want about that piece.
Why don't you do that, and then we'll listen to it.
All right, Like Water. All right, so Like Water Through a Dream. I will just paste it in the chat. There it is. I just pasted the program note in the chat.
When writing let me get my eyeglasses on, I'm going to read this. When writing Like Water Through a Dream, I focused on the form first. I had an 8-minute time limitation, and I wanted to compose a piece offering some textural and thematic variety, as well as a sense of narrative, so I settled on a rondo. A rondo utilizes a recurring theme juxtaposed with a series of contrasting themes. To create a sense of overarching unity, I created a primary motive that appears throughout the piece in each section, something like Berlioz's pardon my French, idée fixe in compact form. I also included transitions and additional thematic material to model more of a hybrid sonata rondo, which would allow for a more continuous flow. This flow is the proverbial water in a title, and the dream is the sense and rapture I would experience checking in on my young children in the late hours, deep in sleep after many hours of composing. That's lovely program notes. The music this is a very lovely piece. So let's listen to it now. Whoops. I'm sorry, I dropped my wristwatch. This what that happened there. Okay. To me, I'm going to say I wrote down a couple words, 3 words that describe this piece, which are blurry, flowing, and spiritual. And another thing I noticed is sometimes there's these very lovely shifts of keys in it, center that are very effective. But
Your
other
title.
people talk.
I think the title was very appropriate.
I was going to say that there's no one individual small moment that contains anything earth-shakingly new. The way it's all woven together is certainly original and very interesting and creative.
Thank you, John.
That's an interesting comment. Yeah. There's no like one big moment. I agree. It's kind of never really thought about like that. So I guess there's, in that sense, really no climax. I never really paid attention to it like that. I mean, if there's a climax, I mean, I guess it's just at the very end, but I don't know.
But if the water, it's like water flowing in a dream,
Yeah.
you're not going to have a climax. You're going to be carried through this shifts and moves and all, but always flowing, always moving and still dreamlike.
I heard some equivalency in there to like a stream of consciousness novel or something, where it just sort of goes on and it coalesces here and there, but it just keeps moving.
Like a dream.
Like a
Talking of the rondo, there can't really be a climax because you've got the different sections coming back and returning always to the original theme. I didn't hear the entire form, but did you do the classical one where you got A, B, C, and then the palindrome or not? Because that would put the climax in the middle, and that's kind of boring then at the end.
Yeah, that's a great observation. And what was your name again?
Lydia.
Lydia, yeah.
Yes,
Right. The rondo doesn't lend itself well to a climax. It's interesting. I mean, unless you have like, I guess that's why composers often will do a B prime when it comes back. So the form here was A B A C A B A. So it's
Yeah.
like a sonata rondo. And so the middle section, A, B, A, C. So the C in the middle was actually like an anticlimax. That was like the softest part of the piece. And that's when you heard like the solo violin and then the solo cello. And things were kind of scaled back. But yeah, so like the difference, so when it came back, so A, B, A, C, A, B prime, so went to B prime because the modulation scheme was different. So I changed the key center, so basically stayed in the tonic when it came back. So, but yeah, I think that's got to be an area of some research. Climaxes and rondos. Do they happen? Or
that's why we don't do the real classical rondo anymore, because you
Yeah.
you build, and then down, 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 down. No, you got to stop there.
Well,
Yeah.
I disagree because I still do rondos and I like the form very much. The classical sonata rondo certainly lends itself by just how you treat the final return of A, then you can make it into a climax.
Mhm. Yeah. Truth be told, I think that's the first and only rondo I've ever written. I kind of wanted that challenge of writing a rondo because I hadn't done it. Anyway, now did you hear? So I said there was like an E-day fix. Da 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 da. That's it. It's almost like a scale. It shows up in every section in some way. Anyway, yeah.
It's with a silence ensuing like that, maybe we could move on to Mary's song. What can you tell us about that, David?
Well, so if any of you remember, I wrote a piece that was performed at Houghton University for violin, piano, voice, and flute.
Yes.
All right, that was flute, violin, voice, and piano. That's the, I guess, orchestral order. And so I wrote that for my church actually, and then had it also performed at the conference. Well, this is the same thing, same instrumentation, and I have decided to write 3 pieces actually, all songs from Luke. And I might even write a 4th one because there's, of course, the Gloria of the angels, right? Angel Choir. But of course, I mean, Vivaldi really did that one pretty well. I don't know if I'll be able to top that, but uh, so this is so I did Zechariah's song, and then this is Mary's song or the Magnificat. But I just have the title of Mary's song because I use the English Standard Version. It's not the like, you know, it's not the unapproachable Latin that's like, I mean, believe me, I love when composers use the Latin and it can be so beautiful and so archaic and like transcend time almost. I'm thinking of the great choral composer that lives way out in Washington. We'll forget the guy's name. You help me out.
Frank LaRocca?
Lordson,
Oh,
Morton Lordson.
oh, Lauritsen. Hmm.
Yes, you know him. So he loves the Latin and all that. But I mean, for me, see, I was Catholic, but I became Reformed, Southern Baptist. Anyway, and I just love the earthiness of just the Bible in plain English. And so I wanted to write Mary's song in a very earthy, straightforward way, kind of unpretentious. So anyway, not that anyway, I'm having all these qualifiers. So anyway, that's the idea of the piece. And it's just Mary's song. It's from the biblical text from Luke. And still in the works, I haven't finished it, is going to be Simeon's song.
Lord, let us thou thy servant.
I did submit.
Can you tell us the names of the performers?
Yeah, so same vocalist that did the other one, Olivia DeYoung. She is the former pastor's daughter or granddaughter. Very fine vocalist. I think at one point she might have studied music, but anyway, that was interrupted in some way, I believe. But either way, she's got a phenomenal voice. Aaron Pacheco, our worship pastor of the worship arts at Elmhurst Christian Reformed Church, that's my church. She's playing the piano. I mean, this was done in a service, so you're going to hear like the service recording. I'm playing the violin, and then Tanya, remember her last name? Tanya is playing the oboe. It could be played by the flute, but you're going to hear it be played by the oboe.
Aha. Okay. And David was nice enough to provide us with a score video for this piece. Since we do tend to read music, that'll be good. Okay, so now we're going to hear Mary's song. No, we're not. Wait a minute, wrong. I pushed the wrong button first. Let's try that again, slightly wrong order. Share. And then Mary's song. We haven't heard from Neil yet. Neil, do you have anything to say?
I like simplicity, David, and that was a relatively simple song, and I liked it because it was simple. You know, your previous one I liked also the strings. The word I would use there is ethereal, and I just want to say I liked the harp in that previous one. You used it effectively. Of course, anytime you do anything on a dream, there's usually a harp somewhere, but you didn't overdo the harp or underdo it, shall I say. It was the right dosage. I just wanted to mention that. I thought with this solo, I could tell the first two measures how the rest of the song was going to go. And it was something simple and very nice to listen to. And the happiness that was in Mary's voice could be shown in the form that you had and the lyricism of the melody. How's that for a synopsis?
I found the simplicity also very appealing, and I thought particularly appropriate for Mary, who it represented her innocence, even her virginity, and also like the way that you reach the high F in a climactic point in the second part of the piece on the words that you reached it on. I don't remember where they were now with my aging brain, but at any rate, I thought that was a very nice touch.
Thanks. Boy, you all are very observant. That was good comments. And yeah, thank you. I agree with you, Neil. For this one, it's funny. I actually wrote another song first. And I gave it to the director, and it kind of modulated. I was thinking, this is Mary's song. It's like everybody knows this one. It's got to be very moving. It was like modulating all over the place, and very chromatic. And I gave it to them, and she's like, "This is like a avant-garde art song." That was her kind way of saying, maybe not this time or whatever. So I was like, okay, they don't want to do this one. What's my response gonna be? Is it gonna be, okay, well, can you do it another time? Or, do I want to dig my heels in? Or am I going to humble myself and learn something from this? And that's what I did. I was like, okay, God, I can do this. God, you're telling me something here. I need to bring it down. So what did I do? No key signature, C major. Like there's like maybe one accidental or two accidentals in the whole piece. And I just focused on trying to have good counterpoint, the melody being pretty uniform, and with the climactic moment, and like you kind of pointed out, just trying to just do good basic things, and so I humbled myself. And then the rhythm of the vocal part is like, I don't know if there's like maybe 1/8 note or 2/8 notes. Everything's like quarter notes, half notes, dotted halves, So I went really straightforward with it. And it was a good challenge for me. So that's what I did, and they liked it, and they programmed it. So there you go.
Sometimes simplicity can be a greater challenge. Especially if we're going in a competition, let's say, and we have to do something in it that's very complex to please the highbrow critic and do something different that stands out from everything else. Sometimes we just have to lean back and just do something simple that could be appreciated by a layman listener in a sanctuary.
Or if simplicity just of it's not just sophisticated and simple, but it's also the simplicity. We have a very sophisticated piece that is very simple, which evokes particularly the Virgin Mary. And come to think of it, while I love Bach's Magnificat, it's a masterpiece, it's wonderful, it's not simple, and it doesn't evoke, I don't picture, well, in the beginning I picture Mary dancing in the opening movement of the Bach Magnificat, but the simplicity in your piece is very attractive and good.
You're fortunate to have a soloist with the warmth of her voice and the quality that fitted what you did. They came together well. I'm a vocalist myself, and she has this warm tone, and you made it possible for it to stand out in just the right way.
Now, you know Josh Rodriguez, right?
Yes, he's a friend and a colleague.
That's it? Okay.
Oh yeah. What else do you want? Yes, he's a friend and a colleague. He's
Good. Well, those
the
are
type
two
of
very
guy.
good
Very
things
well.
to be.
We hired him. We hired him. We got him. We unfortunately that means that we stole him from another fine member of our community here because he was at California Baptist. But anyway, yeah, we love Josh. I wanted to say before I forget, James had a comment. How do I get orchestra to play my stuff? Do they commission me? Do I use a website to promote your music? So that piece that the orchestra piece that I played for you was submitted to a festival. So that was called the Tonal Composers Festival. And that was in Brazil, I think in 2023. So that's how I got that performed. It was submitted to a festival. I have what do you say, commission? I have worked with public schools. I have received commissions for a local school district here in Illinois, but I don't have a website up and running right now. I had one that I made on WordPress years ago, and I started putting together a Wix website, but they're just so darn expensive, and I'm just like, I don't know. I fortunately my career hasn't been harmed from not having a website. I probably would get more things. Honestly, it would be nice to have more web traffic and things like that to have a website. I do actually have a Bandcamp for my band. I've got a string band that I started years ago, and yeah, but I don't do Bandcamp for my composition. Maybe I should. I don't know. Well, thank you for that recommendation. That's not a bad idea. I mean, I like using the free stuff at this point. Speaking of which, MuseScore. And I know Glenn, wasn't Glenn Campbell? What's the guy's name? Not Glenn Campbell. Glenn, last year, Pickett. Thank you. Yeah, he's the guy I stole Josh from, by the way. I don't see him.
You did.
Sorry, Glenn, wherever you are, finders keepers.
He ain't here.
You snooze, you lose.
Glenn, God bless you, brother. But he gave a whole presentation on Dorico last year. People have been, Josh uses Dorico and he's been telling me about Dorico and it's been on the list of like things to get. But honestly, notation software is just a tool. For me, it's not composition software. It's just notation software. So when I just use MuseScore, I think MuseScore has gotten better and better. I switched to MuseScore a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago. I forget. It's been like 2021, I think, when I really went from Sibelius because I loved Sibelius. And I was like, well, I'm not paying for a subscription to access my scores. Sorry, Charlie, that's not happening. So I stopped Sibelius and I just went to MuseScore. And every time they put it out, it's better. So that's what I use, and it's free.
To go back to James's question, which I would certainly think about with him, because James's music is not quite in the style. It's less classical art music. That doesn't mean it's inferior, but it's also not very much not related to what we do. So the solution to that is of course, in English, ask, the word ask, ask and it shall be given to you, S, seek and you shall find, K, knock and it shall be opened unto you. That applies for looking up where people are calling for scores in music. You could join SCI. You know that organization, James? No. Well, Society Composers Incorporated. You should look into that, but also listen to websites and hear music that more matches what you do, and you should send it out because your music is very well done, and you're a very good musician. It's a difference of style. So I'm glad you're asking that question. Get an answer for your question. I can't argue with that.
What's next?
Do we go on to the next one?
Yes.
How long does this thing normally run?
Oh, never more than a day or two. Okay, number 4 is synchronic dances. Number 1, anticipation.
Oh, okay.
And tell us something about that. And who is? Oh, Picosa is the performing group, right?
Yeah.
Where? Don't give me a long answer for this. Where are they located? Who are they? In 50
Chicago.
words or less. Chicago. Okay. All right.
Flute, clarinet, violin, cello, piano. Basically the Puro ensemble, right?
Now, okay, the artwork is very interesting. It looks like somebody who's on a trip and been watching ballet the whole
It's in
time.
the style of Dali. Now let me tell you.
Yeah, it is in the style.
Just
of
it's funny, like I didn't really ever do score videos. Like the very first score video I've done was with the one that you asked me to do, the one you just looked at, Mary's song. That's my first score video. So when I had to make a video, just a link on a YouTube channel to submit this piece for something. I forget what I submitted it for. But they wanted a YouTube link, and you have to have a video for it to be on YouTube. You can't just upload audio on YouTube. So I was like, what do I do? So I was just like, well, I wanted to like have something interesting, not just a blank screen the whole time. So I was like, and I'll just have it do some art dances of like dances, weird dance stuff, AI generated. So I just did like all this AI generated art with that was like I typed in like commands or like dances. And this was a few years ago when AI was terrible. It's still not great, but I mean like it's really bad AI art. Sorry. I would almost say
it works very well with the music. I think it
yeah,
goes
I
well
put in
with it.
some transitions and stuff. It's goofy art though, so don't let it distract you too much, but you can if you want to. I mean, you could listen to it without the thing, whatever. Your call, Bill. Do you think it's worth showing the video?
Yeah, certainly we're going to have to look at it. Definitely. Also,
All right.
it's variety because you've had a concert video, 2 of those where you see performers performing. Then you have a score video. Then you have an art slide video, and then we have an audio only. It's really an audio, and you have 1 picture. That's your Jesse Silver, which we get to last.
What's the instrumentation again?
The instrumentation is precisely. Sorry, I'm looking for a score. It's
flute, violin, clarinet, cello, and piano.
Yeah, yes, quintet. All right, I was looking for something here. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so I'll give the program note here for synchronic dances. It's in the chat. So the first movement is called anticipation. Second movement is called suspension. I was thinking of writing a third movement, but I never did. So I just kind of thought it was cool, and it was a complete piece. Anticipation, suspension. You know, Berg's violin concerto is just 2 movements. I was like, okay, I'll write a 2-movement piece, whatever. But if I did write a third movement, do you have any idea about what the title would be? Bill guessed it.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, when I talked to you last time, you
Oh,
guessed it.
what did I say?
You forgot? Okay. So
Yeah, I did.
the first
Sorry.
movement is anticipation. The second movement is suspension. The third movement would be resolution.
Yes.
But I never wrote it. And how do you write a piece that's nothing but resolution? Kind of a challenge. So anyway. So there it is. All the interest is in the tension, isn't it?
Tension and
Resolution.
relaxation.
I think that's what I learned from Beethoven. Anyway, we can listen to this one now. Watch the weird AI generated art.
Bravo. I love the insouciance in that piece. It brought me back to the ethos of the Les Six in France in the 20s and 30s. It's of course didn't sound like any of the members of that group, but I mean it had their spirit. It was just quite captivating. So it's a great piece.
Yes.
Thanks.
It really sounds like the piece would, not just because of the, although it makes you think of it more, it sounds like this should be choreographed. It sounds like a piece to send to a choreographer, maybe in your school. Would the dance, you have a dance department?
We have a dance. Yeah. I've thought of that before, actually.
Voice, your voice is breaking up.
Yeah, I can't hear, we
Oh.
can't hear you.
Let me move away from the air conditioner. I said we do have a dance department. That would be interesting. It's funny. I've never thought of it as being choreographed.
It sounds like it's very much like it would be choreographed.
I agree. I agree. It should be danced.
Video is almost like a choreography.
Wow, cool. Well, now you're giving me some ideas. So yeah, I forget what I want to say about this piece other than, I mean, the program note is there. It's a sonata, just basic sonata form, and you heard the recapitulation there at the end. I'd use the all interval tetrachord, one of the all interval tetrachords on this one as well. And I like, it took me a while to kind of recover from grad school composition. Like repetition's okay. You know what I mean?
You can say that again.
I love repetition.
What did your instrumentalists say to you when you showed it to them?
They said, "Can you write this in 4/4, please?" So I actually did rewrite the coda in 4/4 to help them. Actually, the flute player showed me, like, here, you could bar it like this. This is how we're playing it. She changed it herself, and she said, "We're doing this. You might want to change it." She didn't actually say, "Hey, can you?" She said, "We're doing this." So I was like, "Thank you." No, I love it, and it's collaborative. You know what I mean? Like composition is always collaborative, and that's how we get better at writing and better at you want to make people happy because you want them to play your music, and
Did it come out the way you liked it? I mean, the way
yes.
you wanted it to?
It came back the way I wanted it to. There was only one thing I wish I had done. That was in the second movement, but you don't need to worry about that because it's a real nitpicky little thing. Because, like, composers, we like to nitpick. But there's one thing that I wrote as a glissando in the cello in the slow part, and I really wanted it to be like a nice glissando, but it never happened. So I was like, oh man, that one little moment. But anyway.
You've heard,
I'd
David,
like to-
perhaps of the story with Koussevitzky when he was doing Le Sacre du Printemps, and he had to have Nicholas Slonimsky, who was his secretary at the time, rebar it so that he could conduct it.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's cool.
I'd like to quote our silent partner, James Worth, what he wrote. So this is to be heard in the program. Stravinsky inspired. I dug it. I listened to Stravinsky as a child many times. Often we don't know where our inspiration comes from. Do you know where yours comes from?
That's a great question. I mean, I do like Stravinsky. I don't know that it's interesting. That's two people that said Stravinsky. I don't know that I actively was trying to do that, but it is in 7. And I haven't written, I don't really usually write in asymmetrical meters. but I was conscious about the number 7. The number 7 was used rhythmically, motifically, and so that's part of why she's like, that's why they wanted it to be in 4/4 in certain part, because it was just like so syncopated while it was in an asymmetrical meter. It just made it really hard on them. And these people are pros. So I'm like, if they're telling me that, I better change it, yeah, where did my inspiration come? I mean, it comes from God. I mean, that's the truth. And I mean, it's like my worst ideas come from me working too hard, trying to be smart and clever.
Yeah.
My best ideas come when I get out of the way and just like let God use me as a vessel. You know what I mean? Like God is the creator. There's only one creator. Like we're composers, and people like to, okay, here I'm going on a rant now. James, this is your fault.
Haven't done it yet. Keep going.
We people as human beings, we like to puff ourselves up. We like to be like God, right?
Oh, not us.
Yes, especially
Atheists only do that. Christians never do that.
Especially Bill Bollinger. No, I'm just joking, Bill. I love
it. Definitely.
We love to puff ourselves up and like think we're so clever. But I always have to remind myself, and when I remind myself of this, that's when my work is the best. It's like there's one creator. We are creatures. There's one creator, though. And when we compose, it's really just a shadow or reflection of the creator God. Like
that reminds me very much something I put on a few days ago. I think if you go on our Facebook page, or for that matter, my regular Facebook page, I took this picture of George Balanchine teaching his dancers, and he's way up in the air, soaring and doing something. And then I have this 4-word quote of his, which is so wonderful. These are the 4 words. God creates, I arrange. And your music sounds like something George Balanchine would have his dancers working with that music. That really, think of him, right? In the New York City Ballet. So yeah, talk to your dance teacher. Have them listen to that.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that.
You should do that, yeah.
So I'll just say one more thing regarding that, and that is just that when we compose, like God knows, God's the one that gives us our passions, right? Not any single one of us has the same passions, right? We're all a little bit different. The hand cannot say to the eye, I have no need of you, or the ear, right? As Paul writes. So like the body, we're all have different gifts, and even with similar gifts, we have different passions and things that come from God, interests and things like that. So I would just say, and just as an encouragement for all of us, and you all probably have experienced this already, but just, follow your passion. God gives you your passion. Follow your passion, and He will give Him the glory. He'll see it all through for good.
And even if you're mining for silver in a mine, and you know a girl, and the girl drowns, but you have still a passion to find silver. That brings us to our next piece, which is Jesse's Silver. And this is in a different. Everyone here, I think, even David Canfield. Do you ever write like a cocktail number, a music number, or a rock, 50s rock selection or anything?
The furthest I've ever gone away from classical idiom is I have a couple of jazz pieces.
Aha. So the answer is yes, you've done that.
So and I think one of the sins of my youth was a pop song, but I can't even remember it. It was so long ago.
What about John? Did you do you work in a different style? Oh, yes, you. Well, yeah, I've heard that song to begin with. Jerry works in many different styles.
One
She has
thing
a slew
I'd like
of
to share real
styles.
quickly. I love the old hymn, "My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. You know, it ends in Christ the solid rock I stand." Last year, that song was absolutely driving me crazy. I'd wake up in the morning thinking about it and hearing it in my head. And on odd moments there would be, one part of the set. It's a very good theological song. If you go through it, it's got depth of theology just in a few words.
Yes, it is.
And I finally decided, if this is driving me crazy, maybe this is something that God wants me to say.
Yeah.
And so I finally did. And I finished it like about a week ago. It took me a long time to do it, but I think when something like that comes to you, you probably better pay attention. So that's what I did.
Is a choral piece, a piano and voice, a saxophone quartet? What is it for? I hope it's not a saxophone quartet. It could be. I mean,
it's for tenor, soprano, woodwind trio, brass trio, string trio, and piano.
oh, great.
Wow. Are you going to have that performed?
Well, I sent it in for CFAMC. I don't know if it'll get
Okay.
accepted or not, but I mean, it's an entirely different tune. It's a totally different tune, but
Well, I hope
I'm happy with it.
Wonderful.
It's good. It's interesting to work in different styles. It's very good to promote our music. It's also it's a humbling experience, because much of the time, it's like selling vacuum cleaners. I think the statistic for advertising is one out of every 100 people that see the advertisement, like in a magazine or something, buy it. So that's, but we should be doing that. But that doesn't give us an identity. God already gave us an identity. But we should be fruitful and multiply. Like, I think my shirt says that. No, I'm a vine, you're the branches. Oh, what does it say? I can't read it. Can you read that? I don't want to take your shirt off. Yeah, be fruitful and multiply. We're to do that. So we're going to hear Jesse Silver, and what's amazing is David does almost everything in this music. Who wrote the lyrics, David?
I'm happy to say those were not AI generated. I wrote them.
You wrote them.
It's
one instrument you didn't play, you said, right?
Well, you said I play guitar in this. I didn't play guitar. So I play the violin and I sing. And you'll also hear a bass player, a guitar player, and a mandolin player.
Well, let's listen to that now, and this is a change of pace. Push the right, click the right thing here. Wait a minute, here we go.
Nope, not today. No cyber threat's going to slow down your business. Get business secure internet and protect your network with Bill.
Remember that!
Jesse Miller worked the silver mine at Stoneface Mountain. Dawn to dusk, old Jesse worked his fingers to the bone. Fell in love with Emma Jane, she was the foreman's daughter. They sat nightly by the fire, gazing at the stars. Oh, down in the mine, there's an echo of remembrance, a glimmer shining brightly in the dark. Cold, deep, silent lies the prize of Jesse Silver, beneath the waters waiting to be found. Jesse mined one afternoon and struck a large deposit. He hid it in his vest so he could win dear Emma's heart. That night Jesse came to call, but Emma didn't answer. Jesse found her in the creek bed, washed upon the shore. Down in the mine there's an echo of remembrance, a glimmer shining brightly in the dark. Cold, deep, silent lies the prize of Jesse's silver, beneath the waters waiting to be found. Foreman came a-looking when his daughter didn't show. Came across poor Emma, slain in Jesse Miller's arms. Jesse ran down to the mine to bury his true love. He struck a geyser in the shaft and vanished in the flood. Oh, down in the mine there's an echo of remembrance, a glimmer shining brightly in the dark. Cold, deep, silent lies the prize of Jesse's silver, beneath the waters waiting to be found. Beneath the water waiting to be found. Beneath the water waiting to be found. Beneath the water waiting to be found.
$100 down the road from me here.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, John. Can you say it again?
Oh, I said it. There's shades of Silver Dollar City. It's down the road from me here.
Oh,
And
yeah.
sounds a lot like something you might hear down there.
Cool.
I thought that was a really catchy piece, and as soon as Bill sends the video of it to everybody, I'm going to forward this with a timing to my own brother, who is a singer, a fiddler. He writes in this style himself.
Oh, wow.
And he would love this piece, I think. I love it too, but I mean, that's right down his alley.
Cool. Thank you.
What got you to write this?
What got me to write it? Well, I some of my favorite music ever since I was a kid. I mentioned that I would get into my sister's records. My sister was like into Joan Jett and those kind of thing, different kind of 70s and 80s, early 80s. But then after that, I got into my father's records. And he was into like Cat Stevens and Harry Chapin and Jim Croce. And probably my favorite of those is Harry Chapin. I love music that tells stories, and like folk music that has a story behind it. So I've always been interested in when I've written music that's just like folk music. But this was done kind of like in a bluegrass style. And so I formed this band, Standard Strings, 2 years ago, or I guess 3 years ago now. And I've just gotten really into bluegrass music. And honestly, this is during COVID, Jerry. So COVID, I realized like, when we were separated and isolated and like, are we ever going to get out of this thing? Am I ever going to get out of my basement, with a mask on? It's just like so depressing. I knew I made a vow. I guess it wasn't a vow to God or anything, but it was just like, I just knew as soon as I could get out of there, I was going to do something like dumb. I was gonna, I was going to write dumb music. I was going to write music that just was happy or feel good or just, music that was not real highbrow. And I guess, folk music. And I wanted to write music that was just very functional and just part of like, I wanted to perform and be in community with people. We all missed that so much, right? The communal aspect of creating music. Like music is so communal. Like it made so much sense at that point. Like when you don't have something, then you realize, oh, I'm really missing this. So that is kind of what happened after COVID. I was like, okay, I'm going to do something fun that I want to do that is not highfalutin, not high art. It's just, but I want to do it well. I don't just want to, I want to do whatever I do. I want to do to the best of my ability. And so I wanted to start playing bluegrass, and so I started to do that, and I met some people, and it just developed from there. And ultimately, the bands that I was playing with, I played in 2 bands, and neither of them were really doing what I wanted to do. And so I was like, well, I just need to start my band then, I guess. So I started my own band, and I'd never done that before. And it was kind of a challenge. I could go on about that. I won't waste your time, but it's also been very rewarding. And I've learned a lot through that process. And as a result, I recorded this album of all original bluegrass music. They're called Tall Tales because they're all stories. Again, a la Harry Chapin, although Harry Chapin was not bluegrass. It's just the idea of storytelling. I think he does it better than anybody. And so also it's all myths and legends around the state of Illinois. So I kind of do a little bit of historical research about the state of Illinois. There is an abandoned silver mine down near, I think it's the Shawnee National Forest, way down the southern part of the state. And there's like, you can't even access it. It's like off limits, and it's totally flooded. So you can't even go inside this thing anymore because it's completely flooded. It's filled up with water. And I just saw some videos of people kind of going in there and investigating with like underwater cameras and stuff. And it's like, this is cool. It's like there's a romantic story to be told. So of course, the story is a myth, but it's based on this real place, and that, as are all the songs on the album. So anyway.
Well, you've done a good job.
What part of
on these
Illinois
pieces.
are you in?
So I live in Villa Park, which is a suburb of Chicago. So I'm like half an hour directly west of Chicago.
Okay. My husband's family all grew up in southern Illinois. Down Tunnel Hill was a community of 50 people. It was the only tunnel of what used to be the New York Central Railroad, which was about 300 or 400 feet from the main part of the town. And now, today, that it has become that no longer trains, but they have a trail that goes through that tunnel. And what was used to be 50 people is like about 20 people now. But anyway, I know Southern Illinois pretty well.
Yeah.
From my husband. Awesome. He went to Southern Illinois University, and some of his family lived at Harrisburg and all down them. And I couldn't get over. We would be driving down a road, and you'd have these big banks, and you'd go in, and I thought, what is it? And he said, that's the levee, And here we were, like 30 or 40 miles from the Ohio River, but it's just flat. And that was so when the river flooded, they could close off. They had iron doors that would close off that tunnel through the levees. It's to protect people from getting flooded on the other side. That was kind of strange to this young Southern Kentucky girl that didn't know anything about those things. Anyway,
Yeah.
but anyway, Illinois is important to me, of course, because it's where my husband was from.
Yeah. That's interesting. I also I wrote a song that's not on that album. It's called Coal Town. It's based on an old abandoned coal mine. There was like a series of disasters that happened. And the town isn't even there anymore. Like it doesn't even exist, but there's a plaque that you can see. It's kind of near Kankakee. It's on a list of coal towns. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it's neither here nor there. But yeah, I was raised in St. Louis, and I know Southern Illinois quite well. So before I came up to the northern part, I just spent a lot of time down there. And my sister lives in Pinckneyville. You know where that is.
Yeah.
I just love the sound of that, Pinckneyville. Like, that's little town. And anyway, yeah, I love small towns. I love the lore and legends. It's just amazing, and how the railroad was developed, and the whole idea of boom towns and ghost towns and mines, abandoned mines. I mean, it's just, and that's, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, that's actually recent history. You know what I mean? And these things are like 100, 200, 150 years ago tops usually. But there's stuff happening before that. It's amazing.
Before we acknowledge David, once again, for doing a great job with all his music and talking and all this stuff, I would like to ask John Akins two things. The second would be, could you close us in prayer? And the first, could you do the next listening room with picking out some pieces of yours as a collection? Because you've never done that. I think Lydia has never done that either yet. So those are two
I did it a few years ago, actually, I think.
But not a listening room.
Not
Yeah.
well, yeah, it was that
Well,
other
oh
thing.
yeah, there was a piece on a Christmas one. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. But no, I mean Aiken's music. Several.
I'm not sure if I'll be able to do it. I may be out of pocket during July. I could put it off till maybe September. That might be a little easy for me to come up with, but
Well, let me switch over to Lydia. Could you do something this coming month in July? A listening room, which you also haven't done.
You're muted.
Give me a little while to think about it, like
Okay.
3 days. Thank you.
We'll let you think. And John, don't feel bad. I'm still letting you close with prayer. Okay. We'll let you do that. Okay.
just before I do that, I was going to mention that town named Pinckneyville brought back memories. There was a student, I believe, in my undergraduate studies when I was in the band playing the clarinet back then. But one of the girls that was at SMU, she was from Pinckneyville, Illinois, and the band director always just loved to say that name.
Yeah, it's got a ring to it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I did leave a couple links in the chat. I left a PDF of Jesse's Silver, the song you just listened to. So if you want to download that, you could take a look at the lyrics or whatever. You can jam to it if you want to. Pick up a guitar or whatever. And then I've got a link to my band's Bandcamp page. So there's other songs, stuff you can listen to on there.
Very good. John,
Okay.
close us in prayer.
Thank you again for this wonderful time of being able to get together and share in a communal kind of basis here, friends together and music making friends. We just thank you, Lord, for this opportunity to be a part of the CFAMC, Lord. Pray that you will bless each one who has been participating today and be with us all in the coming days, and those that weren't necessarily able to be with us today, Lord. Pray that you'll bless the entire organization as we gear up for the fall conference too, we pray. We ask in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.